Hi there, my name is Kimber Hill, and I'm an instructor at Modern Martial Arts Academy here in DeLand, Florida. I am really excited today because I get to present Century's new Little Dragon curriculum on video. Century's new Little Dragon curriculum encompasses life skills and safety skills, as well as martial arts skills, making it a very well-rounded curriculum. Now, I'm going to show you some of the skills and drills as they're presented in the curriculum, but I'm also going to give you some tips and show you some variations to those. So I want you to use your creative imagination when you're training your staff and when you're implementing this in your school so you can have a lot of fun and make this the best curriculum you teach. Hi instructors, today we are working on Little Dragon Safety. This unit that I'm presenting is on home safety, and this is a really important unit because there's a lot of health hazards around the home that little dragons need to be reminded of consistently. In this unit, we're going to cover animal safety, suffocation, electricity. We also have the hiding places that they like to get into, which can be we need to be very careful about. And then last but not least, really important, playground safety, whether that's home playgrounds or at school or at the park. There's a lot of rules that they need to know so that they can stay safe at all times. Now, I'm using the Little Dragon curriculum, but you're going to see that I ad-lib a lot. What I typically do when I'm doing a dragon safety lesson is I really like to engage the children. And if I read the lesson off of the page, it's not quite as engaging. So whenever I prepare for my lesson, I'll read it several times, go over it, make sure I have all of the materials needed, and then I typically put the book away and just discuss these issues with the kids. So you have the curriculum at home or at your school to review. So watch how I just kind of ad-lib and go with it. How are you guys doing today? Good. Good. Today we're going to talk about safety when it comes to working with animals. How many of you like animals? Animals can be really cool. Put your hands down for a second. How many of you have animals at home? Oh, yeah. Let me go around them. What do you have, Olivia?
A dog.
A dog. What do you have, Lysandra?
Cat and dog.
All right. And how about you, Chase?
A rat and a dog.
You have a rat at home? Okay. All right. How about you, Alex?
I had a cat, but I sent it away.
Oh.
Because someone's other cat got run over by a car.
Oh, I'm sorry. And what do you have at home? Brother and sister.
I have a fish too.
Okay, good. Well, you know what? I'm sure that you all are used to working with your animals at home, and you love to pet them and probably give them kisses, and you probably even feed them and really take care of them. And that's okay because they're your animals. But other people's animals, that's not okay to do that with, or wild animals. Let me show you guys a list. I've got a piece of paper here that has a whole bunch of different animals. Who can tell me what this is? Just tell me out loud.
It's a bear.
A bear, good. What is this?
A squirrel.
What is this right here?
A bird.
And what is this?
A dog.
And how about that?
A rabbit.
And how about that?
A cat.
And how about this?
An alligator.
All right. Who can tell me? Let me go back through this list and tell me what you can look at or what's safe to pet, okay? Is it safe to pet a bear?
No.
No. How about, is it safe to pet a squirrel?
No.
You know what? They look really cute and they probably are kind of harmless, but
They're scared of humans.
And they bite.
yeah, they can bite and sometimes they carry diseases, okay?
They get scared when you come up and get them.
That's right, that's right. So they probably won't let you catch them anyway, but we definitely don't want to pet a squirrel. How about a bird? Can we touch birds? No.
If it's your home pet.
Yeah, but you know what? Really, birds are very, very, very dirty animals. Although they look really pretty, they carry a lot of diseases and bugs and things in their feathers. So you have to be very careful around birds and never touch them. Even if you get one injured. Have you guys ever had a bird that's like hit one of your windows in your house and he fell down and he was still alive? Have you ever had that happen? No? Okay. Well, I've had that happen before one time, and I wanted to help him, so you have to wear special gloves and things like that whenever you handle a bird. So make sure that Mom and Dad know about that, all right? How about a dog? If it's not your dog, can we pet him?
No.
No. Why not?
Because it's not your dog.
And what could happen if we don't know this dog?
If other people could have dogs with diseases,
Mhm.
they could touch the dog and make them make you sick.
Good. They could have diseases.
They can bite.
That's
and they can
right.
get really, really scared.
They could. You know what? Your animals at home are probably really nice and friendly and they love to give kisses, but not all dogs are that way. How about cats? Do we have to be careful of other people's cats too?
Yes.
Yes, we do, because sometimes cats like to scratch and they're kind of mean. How about alligators? We have alligators here in Florida. Can we pet alligators?
No.
No way. No way. What?
When you catch one, like see the crocodile hunter, they go, okay, be okay, be okay.
But that's the crocodile hunter, not us. So we don't do that. But maybe if you're at a zoo or if you're at a special place and they tell you it's okay and there's lots of grown-ups around, then maybe. But normally, if you find an animal like this in the wild, you would never want to do that. Okay? You have.
Someone at my school told me that she saw alligator fighting, and when the man came out of alligator fighting, he had bruises.
Oh. Okay, well, you know what? Let's move on. So if you have a question or a comment, I want you to raise your hand, but hold on just a second because we need to get through this lesson. Now, there's some really important things that we need to remember when it comes to dealing with animals. And I'm talking about any animal that's not yours or that's a wild animal. Who can give me, well, let's just kind of review some of the rules again. I'm going to put that list away. Who can raise their hand and tell me one rule about dealing with animals? Alex.
If it's a wild animal, never touch them.
If it's a wild animal, never touch them. How about feed them? Can we feed a wild animal or someone else's animal? No. Now, sometimes there's stray animals outside, and sometimes they really need to eat food, but that's only okay to feed them if mom and dad say it's okay or a grown-up says it's okay. And whenever you feed them, never feed them from your hand, because some animals don't realize that your fingers aren't food. And if you put the food in your hand and you give it to them, they might take your fingers with it. So make sure you always put the food on the ground and then let them eat it from there. Now, how about, you know what, animals like to play a lot. And you might be playing in your yard and playing with a ball, and the ball gets away, and a dog runs up, grabs the ball, and starts running away with it. Should you run after that dog?
No.
No. How do you get your toy back then?
Just leave it.
You can either just leave it or you can ask a grown-up to help.
Find the owner.
Very good, but don't you chase that animal yourself, okay? Now, you know what? Sometimes animals like to play tug-of-war, especially dogs. Especially dogs. They might grab like a piece of rope or something in your yard, and you want to grab it back, and they want to play tug-of-war. They love to play that. Should you play tug-of-war with a dog or any animal? No. If it's not yours, don't ever play tug-of-war with it, because, again, whatever you're holding on to, they might grab your hand. They might snatch right onto it. And make sure if you're ever working with a friend's animal, make sure you always have permission to do anything. Like my dogs at home, I never let them eat people food. They can only eat dog food. So if you come over to my house, I wouldn't want you to feed my dog. So if you're over at someone else's house, be very careful and ask permission always. All right? Great. You guys did really good with our animal safety. So now we're going to move on to our next home safety unit, which is on water safety. Now, water can be a lot of fun to play with. Where do you guys play in water? What are some places that we go to play in water? Olivia?
The beach and pool.
The beach and in the ocean and in the pool. Where else? Dalton?
Puddles.
In puddles? They're always fun to jump in, huh? How about the bathtub? Is the bathtub fun to play in? Yeah. And rivers or ponds or lakes, or there's a lot of different places that we play in water. But water can be a lot of fun, but it can also be very dangerous if we don't follow some real simple rules. So let's go over some water safety rules so I know that you're safe wherever you play. First of all, does everyone here know how to swim? Raise your hand if you know how to swim. Very good. Okay, put your hands down for just a second. Now that you know how to swim, you can probably go in the water by yourself sometimes. But there's certain rules. One rule that I have for my daughter is she is only allowed to go in water that comes up to her chest. Okay? Now, some of you your parents might want you to stay in water that's no higher than your waist, which means if you go to the beach, I don't want you to keep walking out until the water goes over your head, all right? You need to stop where the water comes, and you need to work that rule out with your mom and dad. But let's talk about some rules in a pool or other places like that. How many of you guys have a pool at home? Raise your hand. Good. A couple of you guys do. And how many of you have friends that have pools? I bet everybody has friends that have pools for just about. Okay, good. Put your hands down. Should we run around the pool?
No.
No, ma'am. No way. Should we dive head first into really shallow water? No. As a matter of fact, there's certain pools that will have a big sign that says no diving. And diving means when you go head first. And usually whenever that happens, it's because the water is so shallow that you could hit your head on the bottom of the pool. So you want to be really careful about that. Should you swim without a grown-up around? No, you shouldn't. You should always have a grown-up around. And it's good to have the buddy system, too, to make sure that there's someone else in the pool to play with. But a grown-up should always be watching you at all times. We're going to play a game here in just a second. We're going to move. Hold on just a second, sweetie. We're going to stand up here in just a second, and we're going to pretend like we're water. And we're going to pretend like we're floating in the ocean, and we're a river, and all that kind of stuff. Are you guys ready to play this game?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. All right. Now that we know rules when working with water, we're going to act like water, because when kids really start understanding water and exploring this, they're going to remember the rules a lot better. All right, kids, are you ready to act like water?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, how about if I have Anna come take a step forward and demonstrate for me what water looks like water in the ocean with waves. What does it look like? Oh, good, it's kind of chopping and churning around. Oh, good. All right, how about if I have everybody just spread out right here just a little bit, take one step away from each other, and pretend like you're water. Good, and you're just kind of floating. How's it feel floating in the ocean? All right, now how about water in the bathtub when it starts going down the drain? Starts twirling and spinning all the way down the drain. Very good. All right, now get back up. Now we're water in the river. We're a lazy river. So everybody follow me. We're going to play follow leader, and we're going to be just a lazy river. So we're going to go kind of slow. And remember, rivers go somewhere. So we're starting in one place, and then we're going to end right back where we started. Very good. All right, now, you guys remember all the rules when we're dealing with water?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, have fun being like water. All right, instructors, this next lesson is on electricity. And electricity is probably one of the most serious issues that we have to deal with young children, because there's outlets and electrical appliances all over the place. And a lot of them they're going to be dealing with on a regular basis, especially if they play video games and use the radio and different things like that. All right, kids, today's lesson is on electricity. That is a really big word and can be kind of confusing. So let me kind of put it to you this way. Electricity is energy or light energy. So anything that's lit up, except for the sun, or anything that moves, which has energy, except for humans and animals, uses electricity. So when we come into this karate school and it's nice and cool in here, that's because the air conditioner is working, and that's electrical. It's bright in here because there's lights on, and that's electrical too. Today we have cameramen here, and they're using cameras and all kinds of stuff, and that's all electrical too. Anything that you plug in to an outlet uses electricity. Electricity makes things light up, and it makes things move, and it makes things work, just like your TV and your radio at home. But electricity can be really dangerous for people to touch. So we have to be really careful whenever we use any appliances like that. So we have a whole set of rules that we need to follow, and I'm going to ask for your help while we make a list of rules when using electricity. First of all, should we plug anything into an outlet except for a plug? Like meaning, can we stick our fingers into an outlet? No way. No, ma'am. How about can we stick a pen or a pencil or a toy in an outlet? No. What will happen if we do that?
We'll get shocked.
We'll get shocked. Now, a shock will just kind of make your body jump like that. But if you do something really bad with electricity, like using water with electricity, is a no. That's a major rule. Never use never have your if you're in the bathtub, never have the radio sitting on your bathtub, okay? Because the radio is plugged into the wall, and if that radio gets wet and falls into the bathtub, it could actually cause a bigger shock, which is called electrocution. That's a big word. Can you guys say electrocution?
Electrocution.
That's like a tongue twister. And if we get electrocuted, we could actually even die. That's how serious this can be. So it's really important that we follow the rules. So never stick anything in an outlet that shouldn't go in there, meaning anything that's not a plug. Never use electricity around water. If you plug something in and you see sparks coming out, which almost looks like fireworks coming out of the plug, that means something's wrong. Should you go over there and pull that plug out? No, ma'am. What should you do if you see something like that happening?
Go get a grown-up.
Get a grown-up. Whenever in doubt, always get a grown-up. Also, if you see something plugged in that maybe shouldn't be plugged in, like does mom ever use a curling iron on her hair or hot curlers or a blow dryer or anything like that? Yeah, I use that sometimes too. And we can't leave that plugged in all the time. So if you see something like that plugged in for a long time, go tell mom or dad. And you know what? It might be okay. They might be like, oh yeah, I was just getting ready to use it. But it's better to be safe than sorry. There's some things that we can leave plugged in all the time, like the refrigerator or our TV or even a radio. But we have to be really careful as to where we have it plugged in. Whenever you're handling anything that has electricity, anything that's turned on or lights up, always make sure that you're not in water and you're not wet. So if you just got out of the shower, don't grab something that's plugged in. If you just got out of the pool, don't grab anything that's plugged in. Do you guys understand all of these rules?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I get a big yes, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. We're going to play a game in just a minute called Plug In, Plug Out. And we're going to practice moving when we're plugged in and stopping when we're plugged out. Is everybody ready to play this game?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. All right, now to help the kids really understand what electricity is about, we're going to pretend like they're electrical robots. And we're going to play the plug-in, plug-out game. When I plug them in, they have energy and they can move. When I unplug them or plug out, that means just like a TV or radio, they turn off and they have to freeze right where they're at. Can we do this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Let's see how this works. Ready? You can move around a little bit as we do this, okay? But stay kind of close and plug in. Plug out. Plug in. Plug out. Plug in. Plug out. As you can see, everybody freeze right there. They have a lot of fun doing this activity. You can vary this a lot. I let them do just whatever they want and let them be as silly and goofy as you want them to be. As a matter of fact, if you find that your class is being a little unruly at any point, you can reinforce this lesson on electricity and let them get some of the silliness out and really do whatever they want. Or you can be a little bit more structured and disciplined with it and have them work on whatever skill you're presenting for that day. So, for instance, if you're working on front kick, when you say plug in, they all have to do front kicks, of course, spreading out so they don't kick each other. And then when you say plug out, they have to freeze in whatever position they're in. So they might be chambered with that kick, and then they got to balance and just hold it until you tell them to plug in again. So have fun, vary the activity, and this will reinforce the lesson all about electricity. Be creative. All right, this next lesson is on suffocation. And this is, for the most part, we have done such a good job educating children not to put bags on their heads and things like that, that this is a very, I wouldn't say a minor issue, but it doesn't happen very often. But whenever it does happen for children, it tends to be in places that you wouldn't think. When they crawl into dark corners, a trunk or an old refrigerator, and they don't realize that they can't breathe in there, and they get stuck in there. So that's what this unit is about. It's real important to do that. And then we're going to play a fun game at the end. All right, kids. Today's lesson on home safety is about suffocation. Now, that's a real big word, but it basically means when you can't breathe. So on the count of 3, I want you guys to take a deep breath for me and hold your breath as long as you can. And we're going to see how long you can hold your breath. Ready? I'm going to do it too. 1, 2, 3. It's hard to hold your breath, isn't it? Some people are still going. I see Olivia's still going. Dalton's still going. Good. Well, you guys keep holding your breath as long as you can, but I don't want you to pass out on me, okay? So when you can't hold it any longer, then I want you to breathe. There we go. There we go. Everybody's starting to breathe now. You know what? We can't hold our breath for very long just because that's just, the way we were created. We have to breathe. Yeah, Dalton's still holding his breath. All right. Now, hold on, he will in just a second. I've been hearing him breathe just a little bit, even though he's got air in his cheeks. We can't hold our breath for very long just because that's the way we're made. You just now stopped?
No,
okay.
I could do it. I just wanted to stop.
Good. All right, now remember the rules in Little Dragon class. We don't talk unless we raise our hand, right? Say yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. But I do want you to keep breathing because breathing is really important. And that's what this lesson is about. Suffocation is when you can't breathe because you get into a place where there's no air. And we always need to have air so that we can breathe. How many of you guys like to play hide and go seek? Raise your hand if you like to play hide and go seek. Okay, I like to play hide and go seek, and we're going to play that in just a minute. But we have to be very careful about where we can hide. There is sometimes when we're at home, do any of you guys have a refrigerator at home that does not have food in it? That's like maybe out in your garage or something and it's empty? Or maybe at grandma's house? I never had that at my house, but at my grandma's house, we always had a fridge.
I have food in mine.
Yeah, I do too. So, but if there's ever an empty refrigerator, never climb in there and hide in there, okay? It may look like it's a really cool place to hide, but it's not. And same with the trunk of a car or any small box like that that has a lid that shuts and locks. Because you can open it from the outside, but once you get in there and you shut the door, you can't get out. And there's only a little bit of air in there, and once that air runs out, there's no more air to breathe. And then it's just like holding your breath because you can't breathe at all. So it's really important that you be safe when you play hide and go seek and only hide in places that you know are okay to hide in. Does everybody understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you sure I need a big yes, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, it's time to play hide and go seek, and we're going to follow our new rules. Everybody ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Dragons love to play hide and go seek, and this is a great way to reiterate the point that there are some places that are okay to hide when you play hide and go seek, and there's other places that aren't okay to hide. When you're setting up your classroom, be creative. You can use Wave Masters and XXL bags. You can even use mats and stand them up accordion style. You can use little nooks and crannies and different things there in your classroom. But when you get started, let them know if there's certain areas that you don't want your dragons to go, then those are off limits. Just like car trunks and old refrigerators, reiterating that lesson again. So let's have fun playing hide and go seek. Anna is it. So where's Anna? Anna? Here she comes. All right, everybody ready? On the count of 3, Anna's going to come find you. 1, 2, 3, go! Go find everybody, Anna. Once you get tagged, then you become it. Okay, now Chase is it. Try to find somebody, Chase. Anna, you can go hide. Good now. Now it's Ben. Ben's it. I think there's somebody behind this mat. It's about to fall over. Oh no! Here they all come running. All right, good. All right, everybody freeze. Good. Now you can change the rules on this a little bit. If someone you can make one person it, and then if they tag somebody, that person has to drop and do 5 push-ups and then get right back into the game, and then you just change the person that's it. Or you can do what I've done. Every time you get tagged, then that person becomes it. So have fun, explore it, and again, reiterate the point. The reason why we're doing this is to talk about safe and unsafe places to hide. The final lesson in this home safety unit is about general safety around the home. We all have general rules, don't throw balls in the house, no running in the house, different things like that. But there's more specific rules that the kids need to be aware of, especially when they're playing outside. And these could apply either to an outside playground or even to a public park or at school or different things like that. Do you guys like to play on the jungle gym and swing set at home or at school? Yeah, that can be a lot of fun. All right, but we have to follow certain rules. Whenever we swing on the swing set, how many of you guys like to swing on the swing set? Oh, yeah, that's really fun. Should we jump out of the swing when we're in the swing set? No, ma'am. Now, you have to be very careful, too, not to walk right in front of someone who's swinging or right behind them. Because when they swing, they might hit you, so be very careful. Also, sometimes swings have chains, and sometimes those chains pinch our fingers, so you have to be really careful. But sometimes they can also pinch our clothes, and we could get stuck and hooked in the swing. So make sure if you have a lot of big baggy clothes on, that you kind of tuck it in and tuck in your shirt and tuck in any loose zippers and things like that before you get on the swing so you don't get stuck to the swing. Now, we have to take turns when we're using the swings in Jungle Gym too, because no fighting on that. That equipment can be very dangerous if 2 kids start fighting around it or kicking at each other or different things like that. So be very careful with that. Make sure if you're climbing up on a jungle gym, that you always have your shoes tied. And it's a good idea to always wear shoes. Sometimes, especially here in Florida, if you're playing on metal and it's shiny, it can get very, very, very hot. So test it first to make sure that it's not so hot that you'll get burned on it. And whatever you do not push anyone down the slide, off the jungle gym, anything like that. Even climbing up backwards can be dangerous up the slide because you can fall down and you can really hit yourself hard. So be very careful. Use a lot of common sense. A lot of this is common sense safety, okay? So really think before you act so you have fun when you play and you don't get hurt. Nobody likes to get hurt. No way. All right, so be safe. All right, this next unit is on traffic safety. And traffic safety is a really fun unit to talk about with the kids because this has a lot to do with them moving and interacting and playing and different things like that. Now, you saw me do the last unit, and we went through each lesson detail by detail. Rather than doing that with this traffic unit, instead I'm going to just point out a few things that give you some tips that you can add to the unit, some props, and some other activities, and just give you some general hints and tips while you're teaching it, rather than going through each detail, because it will vary depending on where you're at and what the rules are and different things like that. This unit does cover, first of all, booster seats and rules as far as how children are to ride in vehicles. And that will depend on your state sometimes as to what those rules are. In general, though, we know that small children should not ride in the front seat, especially if there's an airbag. And generally, it's just much safer for them to be in the back seat no matter what, whether there's an airbag or not. Of course, they should always be buckled up. And instructors encourage your parents to lead by example. Here in the state of Florida, it's a law that anyone in the front seat must be buckled up, and all children must be buckled up at all times. That may or may not be true for your state, but it's a general good rule of safety. This unit will also cover bikes, scooters, rollerblades, roller skates, skateboards, anything that they use to play on sidewalks or on streets, and the safety rules that go with that. And then we'll go into some general traffic signs and traffic lights and how the kids can read that. Now, when you're working with your group, it's really good to get them actively involved, which is why I recommend that you basically read the lesson in advance and then just paraphrase and just work with them. But if you're like me, I have a large little dragon class, and so I can't really hear from all of the dragons at once. So it's really important that we lay down some ground rules and only have them speak when they raise their hand and you call on them. If I ask a question, sometimes the kids really want to tell a lot of stories, and I like to hear their stories, but we can't hear stories from everyone in the class. So if I see their hand is raised, I'll ask them, are you asking a question or are you telling a story? And if they're telling a story, I'll say wait till the end of the lesson so that we can get through all of the required material first. Now, in this lesson, the very first lesson in this unit is about booster seats and car seats and things like that. So there's a handout in here, and it's really important that you get the parents as actively involved in this lesson as possible. Make sure that you pass out the letter at the beginning of the unit, and also the sheet that talks about what the rules and requirements and suggested safety guidelines are when working with children. Most parents should already know this, but sometimes as their kids get to little dragon age, they're not quite as strict. Obviously, all parents put babies in car seats, but as the kids get a little older and they're like, Mom, I want to sit in the front, well, okay. You know, they'll tend to bend some of those rules a little bit as they're being their child's buddy. So when parents are actively involved and they see us talking to the kids at the same time, then the kids know, don't even ask Mom to sit in the front seat because it's just not safe. And then that takes some of the pressure off of Mom having to be the bad guy to say no all the time. Now, when it comes to the second lesson in the unit, which is on bikes and scooters and skates and all of that kind of stuff, it's real important that the kids follow some specific rules and wear safety equipment. Now, what I'd like to do in the class is get my sparring gear. And I tell the kids that this is my gear. I pull it out of my bag, and they think that is so cool. And I'll let them pass it around and let them see it. In our little dragon classes, we don't actually use sparring gear. I don't have my dragon spar. So for many of them, this is like really cool because this is what the big kids use and the grown-ups. And they can even try it on if you want. You could try on my helmet and different things like this. This is important for them to see that even grown-ups, even their instructor uses safety gear when we're trying to be safe. In karate, we use safety gear, and in karate is really cool. So when you guys are done, I'll take it back. So thank you, ma'am. So when they're at home, it's really cool to use other safety gear. And I have a daughter, so a lot of these things you can bring in from home, or you can have the kids bring it in. So if you don't have kids at home and you don't have some of this stuff, ask your kids. Say, okay guys, next week or next class or whatever, we're going to be talking about traffic safety and some safety tips when you're riding your scooters and your bikes and so forth. So I want you to bring in your safety gear. If you want, you can even have them bring in their skates or their rollerblades or whatever. And a great way to enhance this unit would be, like, let's say if Olivia brought in her rollerblades and Lysandra brought in her roller skates and Chase brought in his skateboard, you could go around the room and have them tell the group what they brought in and what are some of the rules that they have at home when they're using it. So, for instance, Olivia, if she had her rollerblades, she would tell us that she uses a helmet. Right, Olivia? Right. Good. And then, of course, these are kind of nasty because these are my daughters, but we've got elbow pads, we've got knee pads, and we even have little gloves in case you slip and fall. And safety gear is really important, but sometimes kids, especially as they get older, they deem it as uncool. So when you reinforce that safety gear is always important and is very cool, and because staying safe and having fun is the best way to stay cool, then you'll reinforce those habits at home, and then mom and dad don't have to nag. Put on your helmet, put on your gear, put on this. So, and isn't that true, instructors? That's one of the great things about karate instructors. Parents love us because we reinforce these same rules here, which makes their job so much easier at home. Now, the next lesson in this unit is on general, it's called Walking Smart, but it's general traffic safety. So there's certain rules, and most of these kids know the rules, so I'm going to call on some of the kids to help me come up with rules about crossing the street and playing around the street or around cars. First of all, who can raise their hand and tell me what we have to do when we want to cross the street? What's the first thing that we do? Dalton.
Look both ways.
Look both ways. Now, should we cross the street by ourselves?
No, ma'am.
No. Who should we have with us?
An adult or a grown-up?
Very good. Notice how I'm asking them general questions to help pull the exact answer that I want. If I just ask them in general what are some of the rules, I'm going to get a lot of extraneous answers. So you can help guide them and pinpoint those answers by asking pointed questions. Now, how about what happens if we're playing ball with our friend or with our dog or whatever, and the ball runs in the street and it goes all the way across the street? Should we run across the street and get it? No. What should we do?
Ask a grown-up.
Ask a grown-up. Who else can raise their hand and tell me what we should do? Olivia?
We should look both ways and
Very good.
tell adult.
That's right. That's right. So always make sure you follow those rules. And you know what? There sometimes are little things. One of the biggest reasons why we always have adults with us is because sometimes kids can't see those cars, all right? When you're young, your eyes aren't as developed as a grown-up, and your ears aren't as developed as a grown-up. Even though you can see and you can hear, you can't see really far away, and you can't hear really far away. Or sometimes you have a hard time judging where that noise is coming from. But a grown-up can be there to make sure that we can see long ways away. Yep, it's clear. Yep, it's clear. I don't hear anything. Okay, we can cross. Also, kids are so little, you guys are so small that it's pretty easy for a driver not to see you. So even if you see the car, that doesn't necessarily mean that the car can see you. So, because they're seeing all kinds of different things. So make sure that you're very careful. Don't try to run out in front of a car thinking that you can get there real quick. Wait. It's always better to wait, all right? How many of you guys walk to school? Do any of you walk to school? No, you're homeschooled. You don't walk. You walk to school by walking out of your bedroom, don't you? Well, if you ever walk to school or if you're walking around the school, there's always a crossing guard. And does anyone know what a crossing guard is? Olivia.
It's an adult that helps other children to cross the street when there's cars coming, and they have like a stop sign so the cars can stop.
Very good, very good. And it's always important to listen to what they say. Even though they're not your mom and they may not be your teacher, they're a grown-up that knows what to do and they're there to help you. So if they tell you to stop and not to cross the street, then you must listen to them and do whatever they say. Now, sometimes parking lots can be a little scary because parking lots have a lot of parked cars and a lot of places for kids to hide from other cars. So make sure that whenever you're walking through a parking lot, you're always with mom. In our parking lot here at the karate school, there's lots of cars here all the time, and sometimes there's even big trucks from the business next door. Make sure you don't climb on those trucks or run underneath them or run around the cars. Does everybody understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. All right, now the last lesson in this traffic safety unit is about recognizing certain lights and traffic signals and different things like that. Now, instructors, if you have like Print Shop or Printmaster or some of these other kind of software programs on your computer that will like help you design newsletters and things like that and has a lot of clip art, I have that. So what I did is I made some really cool props to use when I'm teaching this lesson, and then we use this with some of our games and activities. First of all, kids, whenever you see a red light or a red stop sign, what does that mean? Stop. So the color red in traffic always means to stop first. Okay? Now, when you see the color green, what does that tell you to do?
Go.
Very good. So green light means go. And usually any kind of green signs or anything like that means that you can keep moving while you read the sign. All right? Now, if red means stop and green means go, what does yellow mean? Dalton? Medium. Slow down. That's right. So it's halfway between. It also means caution. Caution means be careful. So if you're riding your bike or if you're walking or even if you're in a car and your mom's driving, you just need to slow down. So I have this yield sign here, and this is a pretty common sign. Sometimes you'll even see signs like this, but instead of saying yield, it'll say slow, children playing, or different things like that, or it'll have a crossing, for children to cross the street or anything like that. This tells all the cars to be careful, okay? Now, blue signs are sometimes used. Does anybody know what blue signs mean? Olivia.
Park.
That's right. I have a parking sign. Very good. Blue is an information sign. Basically, it doesn't necessarily mean go or stop or slow down. It will tell you some sort of information, either where to turn or where to park. Sometimes handicap signs are blue also, and that tells handicapped people where they can park. So those are all those different things. Instructors have a lot of fun with this. Use some of these different props. You can make them yourself. When we're going to play a game called Red Light, Green Light in just a second. And in some future videos with some other lessons, we're going to use these signs a lot. So you'll see how I do that, and feel free to print those out of your own computer. You can even download some of the signs off the internet, and then I laminated them for ease of use. So have a lot of fun with the traffic unit and get the kids actively involved, but make sure the parents are involved as well. To reinforce this safety lesson for traffic, we are going to play a game in the classroom called Red Light, Green Light. Now, all kids know how to play Red Light, Green Light. It is a classic kid game that you probably played too. But to vary it a little bit for the martial arts classroom, we're going to have them do front kicks instead of just running. Our classroom just isn't big enough, and they'll just be here like in seconds. So just to remind you, whenever you say green light go, they'll start doing front kicks toward me. As soon as I say red light stop, they have to freeze right where they are until I say go again. The first person to get all the way up here towards me is going to be the winner. Now, typically, you're going to turn around and kind of change position. So when you say green light go, you're not looking at them. But when you say red light stop, you got to look at them because otherwise they'll cheat. Okay, Dragons, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, left lead defense stance, go!
Yeah.
Good. All right. Green light go!
Yeah.
Red light stop! Green light go!
Yeah.
Red light stop! Holy cow! You about kicked me, boy! Very good. All right, Dragons, back up a little bit. Go back to ready stance for me. They love this drill. Whatever skill you're working on in class, too, you can use that here. So if it's roundhouse kicks or side kicks or even punches, they can step and punch. So really be creative and make sure that you draw in your traffic rules at the same time. But have fun. This next unit is on weather safety. Now, weather safety is very serious. And some of the children, depending on your area, may have experienced problems or different things that they've encountered with weather. So handle this very carefully and be very sensitive to the children that you're working with. depending on your area, will depend on what they haven't encountered already, whether it's been a horrific snowstorm or an earthquake or a tornado, or just a lot of kids are very afraid of thunder and lightning. So we just have to be really careful and sensitive when we are working with children so that if you see them getting upset about anything, then you can kind of tone it down or redirect the conversation. Now, if you want, you can just kind of pick and choose out of this unit which lessons you want to teach. I choose to teach all of the lessons in this unit because you never know. Kids may travel. Even though we live here in Florida and there aren't earthquakes, they may have a cousin in California that they go visit once a year or things like that. So I like to at least expose them to all of these different lessons and then let them use them if they ever need to, and hopefully they won't. Now, props really work well in teaching these lessons without making it so serious where it's just a lecture. So get them involved, but use some props that will kind of help with that too. In the first lesson, it's talking about thunder and lightning, the flash and crash. So I have a brown paper bag here, and when trying to explain how thunder works, it's really hard. And basically, thunder happens when air is displaced. It's moving and it doesn't want to move and it's getting heated, and that it's just so hard for kids to understand that. But they love this. So what you do is you take a brown paper bag and then you blow it up with air. You guys remember this one? Cinch it at the end, and when you're ready for your thunder, you're going to pop it. Boom! And it makes a big hole in the bag. They love that. As a matter of fact, when I do this lesson, I bring in lots of bags because they want to see it over and over and over and over again. And that's fine too. And it lets them know that thunder is loud and it may sound scary, just like this loud noise, but it's not anything to be afraid of. Now, lightning, on the other hand, is something that they need to be aware of. And as you saw in one of the other videos, we talked about electricity. And so you can link those two together. Once they understand all the rules about dealing with electricity at home, they can also understand how lightning can be so scary and what they need to be careful with outside and different things like that. So make sure you go over all those rules. Now, we also have a lesson on tornadoes, and in the tornado lesson, to get the kids really actively involved, it's a good idea to do an actual tornado drill in the school. And they all have a lot of fun, and the parents are like, what's going on, and that type of thing. But we're here in Florida, and we do have tornadoes here in Florida, so we use that regularly. I'm going to have my friend Lysandra, she's going to show us real quick the position that everyone gets in a tornado drill. Can you show me that? This is what we call the turtle position, where they're crouched down, hands over their head. Very good, Lysandra. Thank you, sweetie. You can get back up. And then just make sure that when you have them do this in the karate school, that you talk about where they do this. They shouldn't be around any of your mirrors when you're doing this. And you should explain to them no mirrors, no windows, no glass, no nothing. And then make sure that it's a clear area. So when you're doing it, do an actual tornado drill, exactly what would happen if a tornado came to your town while you were teaching class. The hurricane lesson pretty much encompasses everything in this unit, both thunder and lightning, as well as tornadoes and water safety. So this is a good time to review those different lessons and talk about this. You don't have to cover hurricanes if you don't live near the coast, but do keep in mind that hurricane season, I know on the East Coast, is from June to November. That's half of the year. And there's a good chance that even if you live in another part of the country, someone is going to come vacation in Florida during that time of the year, and they need to know what to do, especially when they're out of town and they have no one to contact. They're really going to need to know what these safety tips are. The next unit is earthquakes. And like I said, I cover earthquakes here, even though they don't happen in Florida. This is a fun unit that we can have a lot of fun with the kids. And then I have another prop for that. This is just a rebreakable board. And this one is actually missing a few teeth, so I can break it. And we'll just kind of talk about how the earth will cause, or earthquakes will cause the earth to shake until sometimes the earth will break. And sometimes it'll break up like this, sometimes it'll come apart, different things like that. So the kids they all know about the rebreakable board, so they enjoy seeing that. Then the next unit is on flooding. And flooding is serious no matter where you are in the country. And sometimes kids don't really understand because they see it rain and they know that it sprinkles and things like that, and they don't really understand how serious flooding can be. So in this little activity, I have some more props here. I have a water balloon, a balloon that's just filled with water. And when you're doing the lesson, you can kind of play with the balloon. The kids know that it's a water balloon, and so they're like, oh no, what is Miss Hill going to do with this water balloon, right? But during the whole lesson, you talk about it, and then at the end, you can take the water balloon and just pop it with a pin so that they can see how quickly you can go from having no water on the ground to having, nothing but a huge mess all over the place. So the kids always love that. And sorry, Lysandra, I kind of got Lysandra. Of course, she thinks that's funny, but that is the flooding unit, and it really exaggerates the point that it can happen fast. The last unit in this lesson is on the sun. And a lot of times, I've got my little props here that Dalton didn't eat. Thank you, Dalton, for not eating it. And whenever you're dealing with the sun, you have to be careful of not getting sunburned. So I have a grape here. This is the before. And I have a raisin. This is the after. This is what happens to little dragons who don't put on their sunscreen and get in the water too long. So just before and after, make sure you be careful. As we know in the sun, you have to drink lots and lots of water. So drink lots of water, and that will keep you hydrated, and that will keep you from not getting burned up. Will you hold this for me? Don't eat them yet, though, okay? All right, instructors, that wraps up this video. We talked about a lot of different topics. I went through the weather safety and the traffic safety, the home safety we spent a lot of time on. Feel free to just use your own expertise, use your own experience, and add to these lessons. Keep in mind, if you read them out of the book, you're not going to engage the children, and they're really not going to learn, and they're not going to enjoy this segment of the class. For martial arts instructors, we're used to being active most of the time. But remember, these life skills and these safety skills are what really adds a lot of value to the program. When parents are looking at this and they see what you're teaching, they know that this is more than just playtime. This is more than just like a fun activity for them. This is an education. And so it's really important to get them to learn, get them in having fun, and get them involved. So have fun.